Welcome to another episode of Angels, Positivity and Love. Absolutely amazing experts the world over with incredible backgrounds. Oftentimes, they've been on a journey, a personal journey throughout life, like all of us, but they've gone through something. And most of the guests on the show have been through something in such a way that they turn around and give service to others, or they're artists, or they're writers. And in this case, we have a fantastic writer joining us from Florida, LISA McCOURT. I am thrilled to have already met her and spent plenty of time with her. She's a children's book author. She's all about joy. And I've got to say that one more time. She's all about joy. So the school of joy, the pursuit of joy, experiencing joy. So for adults, it's all about joy. For kids, 9 million books sold. You'll know her. Scholastic, those board books. There's an entire line that you're going to be like, oh my God, this is LISA McCOURT. She's full of joy. She's also we'll say a silent ghostwriter, which means you'll never know that she wrote that celebrity or politician's book. There's at least 12 that are really big, with probably between them at least 9 or 10 million copies sold. Don't tell anybody. So she's obviously a fantastic writer. She's just a fantastic individual. She pays attention. And so with that, I'd like to welcome LISA McCOURT to Angels, Positivity, and Love. Again, I'm just so thrilled to have you on. I've got goosebumps. You're a very happy person. Thank you for sharing what you do with everybody.
Oh my God, Mike, I'm so thrilled to be here with you. You have such a fun energy. I love to play with you.
Oh, okay. Tell us something about something. Did you know you wanted to be a writer like when you were 5? You had that plastic typewriter. How did any of this come about? When did you do the children's books, or was it adult books first, or was it something else?
Yeah. So, I mean, if we're talking about like when did I start writing, I wasn't always the joyful creature that you see before you. I had a pretty dark childhood, and I was an avid journaler. I don't know how that even got suggested to me or got started. Actually, I do. It was Scholastic Book Club. There was a book called The Anything Book, and it said this is the place to write your secret dreams and thoughts. And I had a lot of those, so I ordered that book for 50 cents, and that was my first journal. So I do know how that got started. But I think that for me, journaling was such therapy. It was the only place where I could go to really be myself and feel connected to my soul, my spirit, which is something that when it's the water you swim in, you think everybody's having the same experiences. It wasn't until much later that I realized I was having experiences with my soul self through journaling. And I think it's really one of those things like the tipping point talks about that spending 10,000 hours in anything is going to make you really good at it. And I just spent so many hours with that journal that writing was always kind of in school. That was my superpower. No matter what the class was, I knew I could ace the papers at least, or, the essay questions on the test, even if I was horrible at other parts of school. So it just sort of became my one thing that felt like kind of a superpower.
Mm. Okay, now flash forward to today. It's been a long journey. You've done a lot, you've seen a lot. Are you still learning, expanding? What's the latest that you've decided life is all about? Is love the fabric of the universe, or joy?
Oh, love 100%. I use the word joy. I think I started using joy as for my adult teachings and my adult books about a dozen years ago. It just was a word that felt I've always or I used to be more of a bridge brand. I think I'm still a bridge brand to an extent, but I used to be more of a hey, everybody out there who doesn't pay attention to anything spiritual, look over here. Come here, let me show you something really cool that you're missing out on. And as such, I wanted my branding to be about the promise of learning some ways to get in touch with your soul self, your spiritual self. And to me, that promise was joy. Everybody's walking around but miserable, right? But if you just like do a little investigation into what's in there, what's possible, it up levels your joy. So that became kind of the word, my branding word for the adult work that I've been doing for about 20 years now.
Okay, so I'll say this, love's a constant, love's everywhere. Open your eyes to see love. I didn't say that. The Big Mary did, but joy's like that as well. It's a constant. It doesn't have to be a concert or, that time you were on vacation, had a great time. It's around you. We just unplug. Can you talk to us about the difference between like thinking, resisting, reacting, rejecting, stress, fear, worry, all that stuff that happens up here versus what goes on down here? Timelessness, limitlessness, fun, love. What's this all about? And then how do you talk about it and how do you help others?
Beautiful. Okay. So yeah, we were talking about love when I went into joy earlier. In my joy school, we use them almost as fungible terms. It's really is, when you're in love with life, you have joy, right? When you're experiencing joy, you're in love with the thing that you're experiencing, with the moment, with the world, with yourself. So they really are very, very similar. People think that joy and happiness are similar. We teach that that's actually not the case. Happiness is one of the beautiful human emotions that we're all here to experience and feel, but we're not going to be happy 24/7. That's not going to be the just default setting on our state of being. We wouldn't even know we were happy then. Happiness would be like so boring if we didn't have the contrast of other perfectly natural, beautiful human emotions. So joy can exist as an undercurrent beneath all of our emotions, beneath our anger, beneath our sadness or grief or frustration. Joy can be present when we practice the skill of just being so okay with 100% of who we are, 100% of the world. It's really, we use a lot of Buddhist principles in Joy School. It's really that acceptance piece. It's like, this is a fabulous adventure that my soul chose to take right here at this crazy juncture in this big project called humanity here on Earth, which is still a very young project and has a lot of growing to do. My soul picked right now to come in and be part of it. So let me just hold all of it. Let me just embrace all of it, do what I can to move it in the direction that I feel it's headed for and needs to go in, while enjoying the ride.
Hmm. Can you give us some flavor? Is it you ran into an angel one time, you were on a trip in the middle of Asia, this happened, or domestic, something else? What was like a pivotal moment that you still look back on fondly, or you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa? What is it that you can share with us that's part of, Lisa McCourt's journey?
Yeah, I get that question a lot. And I know a lot of my colleagues have these like very dramatic, beautiful moments. And I love reading about those moments with other people. And I've witnessed those moments with my joy schoolers and the work that I do. I really feel for me, it's been a series of micro awakenings. I think I'm pretty thick, I'm pretty dense. I don't I guess I needed a lot. I need like spirit to really whack me upside the head for me to feel that I've had a spiritual experience. So it's been a series of them. And this is like the most boring answer ever, but truly the ones that I can recall have come from books and teachers, which is what makes me so passionate about writing books for this community and teaching people who are interested in learning about this community, because truly that's where my awakenings have been.
Which books, which teachers?
Oh my gosh. So going way, way, way back, again to those journals, in my 14-year-old journal, or when I was 14, I somehow got my hands on Your Erroneous Zones, which was Wayne Dyer's first book. That's how old I am. Completely, the wordplay was not something that I registered on any level at 14. But that book, I have just copied pages and pages and pages into my journal. And I think I thought at the time that Wayne Dyer was the only human being on the planet who like knew me, who saw me, who had the same kinds of thoughts that I had. So it was just this like opening of like, there was another human being here. I'm not completely an alien here. And then that led to the understanding that this was just one genre of reading that I could find and participate in. And then when I got old enough, I started studying Buddhism, and that opened up a huge, huge window for me. That was just a gorgeous, again, the realization. It's like when we read something that really just like lights us up inside, it's more of a recognition of something we already knew than something that we're learning fresh. Led me way down into Vedic teachings and Tao Te Ching and the whole Eastern gamut. So those things changed me a lot. And then I just started going on retreats. I spent a lot of years like really dug into Eckhart Tolle work. He's one of my favorite contemporary masters, Byron Katie. I've done a lot of Joe Dispenza workshops. So really just finding community, finding people who were talking about things that felt so right in my soul.
Okay. So I've got four quotes for you, and then we're going to take it from there and expand. So one will be an Eckhart Tolle quote, one will be a Wayne Dyer quote, one will be a Joe Shu, but technically Zen or Buddhist quote, and then also I have Gary Zukav.
You're
So
quick. Yeah, I
yeah.
like Gary.
So the Zen one is from Joe Shu. I think it's the last name is Green. He translated it as up on the shelf. It's just beautiful. This guy is I don't get the dates right. I can't pronounce anything. 700 AD. Joshu is a Zen master, Zhao Zhao in Chinese. The student always runs up to the master and asks a question to try to prove that they've arrived here and they're kind of ready to become the Zen teacher, just to say they know how to get out of mind. The student comes running up to the teacher and says, "What about it when I seek to be Buddha?" And the teacher is like, "What a tremendous waste of energy." And then the student, to show he was still on the horse and still going to graduate this class, was like, "Well, what about it when I don't waste energy?" And the teacher said, "In that case, you are Buddha." Now, the Wayne Dyer quote's a classic one. You know this. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Eckhart Tolle's is a little different. He said, ego implies unawareness, or our thinking or being up here, and awareness and ego cannot coexist. You can't be half pregnant. You're either up here wasting energy, or you're down here in the moment of life. Instead of thinking about walking the dog, you're actually walking the dog when you're down here and enjoying it, hopefully. Okay, last one, Gary Zukav. And you have to talk after this. So you're going to go all philosophical professor on us, all spiritual teacher, sensei. Here we go. The last one is, I'm buying you time. Gary Zukav from Seed of the Soul. You change the way that you shape the light which is flowing through you by changing your consciousness. And that feels a little bit like the Wayne Dyer quote. So I dropped the mic. You're up.
You
What
might
do you
have to.
what do you
We
got
might have to
for
go
us?
through them one by one, so you can
Sure.
refresh my
But
memory.
here, just whatever way it propels you into that inner space of love and joy that you share with us all. 1 + 1 = 11. Totally said. Ego implies unawareness. Awareness and ego cannot coexist. You know the Wayne Dyer one. And then the one is, what about it when you seek to be Buddha? What a tremendous waste of energy. What about when you don't waste energy? Then you are Buddha. You're here.
Right.
Yeah, pay attention to how you're spending your energy. And the last one is Zukav. You change the way you shape the light that's flowing through you by changing your consciousness.
Yeah. All right. So we'll kind of conflate them so they can, because they all are very similar. Um, our brains are computers, right? So we get just programmed from the moment we arrive here. We start the program and we start like getting the downloads. We get them from our parents, our culture, our school, maybe our religion. We start getting downloaded with these programs. So I feel like what each of those quotes has in common is when we can become the observer of the programs, the observer of what's going on here, witness consciousness, very very Buddhist concept. We can start to recognize what's just a thought coming from those programs and what's coming from soul self, right? Eckhart said that we all have a horizontal self, which is our name and body and affiliations and roles that we play here, and we all have a vertical self, which is the true source of being, our God self, our essence, our divinity. And in our culture, we are so programmed to not pay any attention to the vertical self. And it's, of course, the most powerful part of us. It's the part that's creating our life in every moment. And to me, what those quotes have in common is becoming the observer allows us to choose when we want to be, because sometimes we're going to identify fully with the horizontal self. We came here to have a human life, and we may as well have fun with that, right? We may as well have desires and bring them to fruition. It's what we came here to do. But it's so beneficial and wonderful to be able to notice, all right, I'm going to spend a little time in my vertical self right now, knowing that we can fall back into the horizontal self, knowing we can fall back into the vertical self, because it is from that position that we can have compassion for our horizontal self, that we can reparent, reprogram some of those programs that our crazy brains are running. And yeah, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. That's manifestation. That's just, we're always creating what we deep down believe we deserve, right? If you want to see what your subconscious believes that you're worthy of and you deserve, just look out at your life. Most of us have created a mixed bag, right? Maybe we can say like, wow, good job creating that awesome partner, or that beautiful home, or this career that I love. Most of us have a few things that not really knocking it out of the park with my manifesting in that area of my life. That's just showing us where we've got some programs running that aren't optimized, that aren't the healthiest. We always talk in Joy School about our relationships. We're in a relationship with everything in our life, right? It's not just our relationships with different people. We're in a relationship with our body, with our home, with our car. We're in relationships with abstract concepts like money or romance, right? So anything that we can look out in our life and say like, not really the way I would like it to be over there, it's just like, how do we heal that relationship? We make it a relationship, and then just like in our relationships with human beings, we heal it with forgiveness and love. So I feel like that's a current that ran through each of those quotes. You can pull me back to them and redirect me if I missed anything. But yeah, it's just like becoming so cognizant of that vertical self and the horizontal self, and having a balance there, and having them interplay positively.
And I now understand how you aced all those sixth grade papers, your assignments you were given. You crushed it. Got it. Okay. Beautiful answer. And we're going to ask about manifesting next. What's your advice for folks for slowing their roll? So, like slowing down, taking a breath, listening to the universe, or paying attention more, but then actually learning how it all works and putting it into fruition or motion. What's this all about?
Yeah. And it's such a good point, because I think it's what keeps a lot of people from spiritual investigation or personal development work, is that this whole notion of mindfulness and slowing down, that's out there. People equate that with the kind of work that we do, and that's terrifying for a lot of people, either consciously or subconsciously, because that's just, it's, we distract ourselves, we as a collective in general, especially in this country, distract ourselves 24/7 from what's really there for us, what's right in our hearts. We don't want to look at it. A lot of people just feel like if it's in the past, it's in the past. I don't need to go back there. I don't, I'm marching ahead. But if it's in the past and we haven't ever addressed it or properly attuned to it, then we're carrying it, and it's creating that filter. We're always creating our life in every moment through the energy that we're sending out. And that energy has to go through a filter of all that past muck that we insist on carrying around. When if we can just really get comfortable with slowing down, and we do it in increments in Joy School. We don't throw anybody right into the, you have to slow completely down right now overnight pool, right? We take care of our people. But the more we can gently allow for that, it just allows what's in there, because it always wants to come up. All those stored frequencies that happened from some prior time in our lives when we just didn't have the bandwidth to properly process an uncomfortable situation that was happening for us, the big T traumas, the little T traumas, all that is stored away in there, and it always wants to come up. That's why subconsciously we create situations in our lives that trigger us and poke at it, because it's giving it the opportunity for us to lovingly attune to that feeling, and allow it to flow through us and out. So it's a practice. It's, it's really just learning some skills and then deciding to practice them.
So you're all about changing one's future. And what you're also suggesting is it's possible to change the past, which I think Seth in the 1970s through Jane Roberts, that light being, talked about that the past isn't as fixed as we perceive. Can you just touch upon that a little more, that it's really about where you're at? Are you up here? Are you down here again? Back to that theme all over again.
Ah, Seth, wow, I hadn't thought about Jane Roberts in a long time. That was one of my first exposures. We're old, aren't we old?
You know,
I love it. Um, it's, yeah, well, I mean, the whole you can change the past, it's like, the first concept is just like there is no past. It's not here right now. We have records of the past that somebody wrote down, we have memories of the past, but all of that came through super unreliable filters. It's these brain filters. So each one of us has a filter that's distorting reality, if there's such a thing as reality, right? There is no objective reality. There's only reality as each of us is experiencing it. So even our memories aren't really anything true or real, because they've come through the distortion of our individual perception filters. So I think when spiritual teachers say we can change the past, it means we can change how we carry the past within us, and really that's all the past is. Right? So if we're carrying it with a lot of weight and disturbance and repressed feelings that we didn't get to feel, and we can allow those feelings through us and know that it's perfectly okay to feel really sad about something, it's perfectly okay to feel really scared about something, especially when we get in touch with the age we were when we stored these things. Of course we're going to be too scared to process it and allow it to move through us the way energy is meant to move through. Of course we're going to constrict our energy, which just squeezes it in. We're self-protective creatures.
hmm.
But allowing for those energies to move through us the way energy is meant to do changes the way we carry the past.
Brilliant. Again, even if I've said that before on this particular show. Okay. Now, you're a ghostwriter writer, and that doesn't mean you've got ghosts helping you. I'm just saying you're a ghostwriter, you're a silent ghostwriter, which also means you're not going silent for 3 months as you write someone's book. It just means no one will ever know that you participated in writing some celeb person's book. And you've helped people who have been on Oprah, Good Morning America, Saturday Night Live, Dr. Oz, ABC's 2020, The View, Today Show. I keep going on with a long list of, we're talking high-end celeb visible folks without ever saying a name of a politician or a self-help person or some sort of a guru. Have you ever helped a person who is a spiritual leader on the Watkins 100 list? Remembering that for the last 10 years, that's actually about 800 people because the list changes. Yes or no? Have you helped somebody who's a top spiritual figure?
Okay, I don't even know that list, so
Oh,
these
good. It's England. Don't worry. The
yeah,
Watkins
don't
100
even
list
know
is
that.
it's 100.
And
Like they've got Oprah, Dalai Lama at the top, and so on. But once in a while, they have a cult figure.
never for Oprah nor a Dalai Lama. So
Yeah, you haven't done that, but you probably helped a top 100 person.
I don't know. Truthfully, most of the people that I've ghostwritten for, I don't think you would know their names. I
Okay.
don't think you would. Most of them know. And I will say one because I think you'll appreciate this one. And she has been super cool about it. She's talked about it publicly. So she's one of the ones that I can mention that I think that you would get a kick out of is Roma Downey back in the day, back when she was on Touch with an Angel. I
Oh,
wrote her a book with her. So, there are some that don't mind. There are some who put my name in the acknowledgments or, and then
hey,
usually
better.
well, no, usually the deal with a ghostwriter is that there's
Yeah.
no trail of that, no record of that. And that's okay because I mean, usually in my case at least, it was somebody who had a really important message, had a following, was out there doing workshops, teaching, maybe just didn't have the time, but they wanted their message to be, in a book format. And a lot of people just don't have that particular skill set. It happens to be my superpower is putting these things into words so I could take all their videos and trainings and just translate that into their voice, their language, to give them a book to add to their, what they're able to leave as their legacy in the world.
Hmm. Roma Downey. Wow. Very cool. Now, if anybody remembers Amy Lovejoy, it was this kind of like, I'm going to guess the 80s, 90s, 80s series about a guy who just when he sees antique furniture, we're talking rare pieces, his pulse rate goes up. It would be like Sherlock Holmes in a way, how we could just look at the room and tell what happened in a micro way. So Amy's Lovejoy was a very famous actor. That I can't name a single other thing he's in, but I see his face, and his pulse would go up when he saw a rare piece of furniture. You're kind of like that when it comes to writing. Can you share a little bit of your process? How do you crack the code when someone comes to you and they give you 16 different videos, 2 boxes worth of materials? You got 4 of their other books, maybe ghostwritten by somebody else. How do you crack the code? Is it a combination of athletics, meditation? You're out surfing for the day and you go, Eureka, I've got the formula. And, Buddha knocks you on the head and you're like, you see the whole thing. How do you roll? How do you operate? How do you get fired up? And how do you approach the next person that comes along?
Oh, that's lovely. Um, for a long time, I had a string of just super aligned ghostwriting clients. I would have done it for free because it was like I was so passionate to learn everything that they had to say. And I think I go through a little bit of like what actors do when you sort of like try to get into character, like get it, like you notice their mannerisms. I have a lovely British friend who I tried to like adopt his way that he goes about teaching his mechanisms when I wrote his book. But it's almost like yeah, it's like taking on a character, I think. And then if you love the material and you realize you're just it's usually really easy. I did go through a stretch. I don't ghostwrite anymore because I think the universe was leading me to stop doing it. It had taken up most of my time. I wasn't doing much of my teaching during that time. And I had a string of clients that I was not as well aligned with. And it just sort of began to feel laborious and very isolating. Writing is a very isolating profession. And one day I just realized, okay, when this book's done, I'm gonna hang up that hat and go back to teaching. And that's, where I put most of my energy for the last 5 or 6 years, is just into my joy school.
No, you just said don't, and the universe doesn't hear that. So if the following three people rang you tomorrow and said, I have to have you write my book, who would you drop everything for but charge double the rate so that you were striking a good compromise? Who are the three figures that you would be like, oh yeah, no, I would absolutely do those books? And we'll never know. But who are the three figures? Or you could just beat around the bush about them if you don't really want to say it out loud. But at least one name. You're like, yeah, if they rang me tomorrow, I'd do the book.
Goodness. Well, I mean, the ones that come to mind are already well established authors in their
That's
own
okay,
right.
but they don't have the time. They're like, I need somebody, and I need somebody who knows what they're doing, and I need somebody who's aligned. I need somebody who listens. Who are
I'm
the
gonna go
three?
with Eckhart, because Eckhart, changed my life, of course. He doesn't need me to write his books. Um, Byron Katie, I feel like the material is so absolutely fantastic. And she's maybe, like a little bit in a rut with like the presentation. We could shake up the presentation a little bit. I could bring like a different, lens. And and Mickey Singer, because his material is like so brilliant, but he is so like saucy. Like I'm always like, oh, when I teach his stuff, I'll read his stuff and then I'll put it in through like my like kind lovey filter. And I love him. I think he's brilliant, but he is so saucy with his audiences. And I'm like, no, 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 come on, dude. Let's soften this. Don't be like calling him out and nagging them. I don't know if you've ever read his stuff or listened to him. He's hysterical.
But it's like the Esther Hicks chair, but instead of like just listening and feeling the moment, he's like, you.
He's,
Oh my God, that's awesome.
he's
I get
supposed
it.
to
I
like
get it.
hell.
Okay, so to that end, ditching the writing part, not that we're ditching it completely, we'll come back to it. And we do need to talk about children's books. So I was going to ask you back on the self-help spirituality front some stuff, but let's cover the scholastic board books, a whole line of books, not just board books. Talk to us about the kids side of the thing, being a children's author.
Yeah, that preceded the work that I do for adults. And I do love the story of my first really knock it out of the park was I Love You Stinky Face. It wasn't a board book for many, many years. It became a board book later. It was a, hardcover, and then went to paperback, and then much later went into board book. But I wrote it when I was pregnant with my first child. And it was definitely one of those sort of like download situations. I was like so focused on how much I loved this at the time, like grain of rice that was in my belly, right? Like you don't know. And I was just like so marveling at how maternal instincts are so cool, that without knowing a single thing about this person, I'm so madly in love with this person. And it led to this book about unconditional love, no matter what. And the funny, cool thing that happened, it was a really quick bestseller, and it's had 10 sequels in the 26 years since it's been in print. So it's always kind of a series that's being fed. And that was my bread and butter series. But the cool thing was that child turned out to be my beautiful and perfect transgender daughter. So that book has this whole sort of like resurgence in the LGBTQ community of, kids who were read that as they were, growing up, because a lot of kids were read that when they were little, that no matter what, my love for you. And then tragically they came to, find out where that line is in the sand for their parents. Like I have a lot of young kids write to me that my mom read that story to me, but that didn't turn out to be to hold up, in the scrutiny of my teen years or young adulthood. So that's been sort of cool, because I am really active in that community. With my transgender daughter, I'm a PFLAG president. I work with families who are, having difficulty with their kids coming out and kids being in transition. So it's just one of those full circle things.
Hmm. Okay, so talk to us about there's judging and there's rejecting, resisting, reacting. It's all just fear-based thinking, which we're all going to do. I'm going to go back to doing it this afternoon. I think it's probably 80%, 50% of our day. One angel named Charlotte said 7% less thinking a day is the Olympic gold medal for us all. It's just not in the cards for mankind right now that thinking is going away. We can flip that pancake though and say it differently, which is just 7% more here. And that's what I wanted to talk about. There's judging, and Mother Teresa said if we judge people, we have no time to love them. So until you understand the difference of up here versus here, and one's like a hot stove, like those 70s stoves that glow hot with the ring, the metal ring that you put your pot on. And when you touched it as a kid, you're never going to do it again. It's ingrained in you not to do it again. So once you learn what this is versus this, and what love is, and joy and connectedness, why would you ever want to be up there again and do it? But we still do. We don't like the New York Jets, but we're New York Giants fans. You can't tell anybody otherwise unless you're a New York Jets fan, and then it's the other way around. So welcome to being human, the contrast. Love is what allows us, though, to enjoy all that contrast. Lisa, this is back to you, though. Talk to us about how when you're up here, you're pulled out of the flow that's a constant, that if you just wanted to pay attention to, it's here and now, it's in everyone and around us. And so it doesn't matter what the topic is, it's just like being a Buddhist monk. Good luck with that. You can practice more love anytime you want here. How do you inspire others, or how do you remind yourself just to walk a smoother path?
Yeah, no, it's such a huge question. It comes with that practiced skill of aligning with the vertical self versus the horizontal self. All of our judgments are in the horizontal self. Judgments don't feel good when we're having them, when we're making them, because that's just our energy showing us that we're out of alignment with what our soul knows. Our soul doesn't judge anything. Our soul came here for the full gamut, for the whole human experience that we're here to have. So our soul isn't judging. It's our vertical selves, our horizontal selves that are judging, right? Where it's our ego, our persona. And you're right that most of our judgments are fear-based. It feels like a protection. But whenever we're in judgment, we're out of oneness. We're out of, source is oneness. And it's always a constriction of our energy, right? We all know the difference, what it feels like to have our heart open and our energy open and all our emotions flowing through us as they're meant to do. And we know what it feels like to constrict our energy. And judging and hating on people is a constriction. And it's just piling more of what we don't want inside us. When we understand that it's just all of those stored away frequencies that we were talking about earlier, they act like little magnets, and they're going to pull to us in our experience more things that match them. And the more we continue judging, the more we continue blaming, the more we're charging those magnets, and we're just creating more and more discord in our lives, more and more to resist and push against. And we all know what we resist persists. Anything that we're putting a lot of our energy, whether positive energy or negative energy, we're growing it. We're growing it in our experience. We're growing it in the collective. So all of this divisiveness that's like so up in our country right now, we're feeding it. Anytime we buy into it, and people have legitimate reasons to buy into it, I understand that, but it just feeds the beast. It just feeds the whole divisiveness that's already, threatening the nation. But how to do it? Okay, so we have like a little practice. We catch and release. So it's like, notice that I'm in judgment of
Catch
what.
and release. We're not talking politics here. We're talking spirituality and stuff like that. So keep going.
Is that a political phrase? If it is, I
Oh,
don't
I think on the
know.
southern border, yeah, catch and release. So sorry.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no,
Yeah, we didn't
thank
even think
you.
about that, did we? We're talking
Thank
spirituality, and I'm just trying to
you.
make you laugh. Catch and release those thoughts.
That's not what I was talking about. So thank you for making that point. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I did not even put that together. But yes, it's a catch and release on the thought. When we know that it's just an unhelpful thought that's part of our programming, right? We have habitual thought patterns, habitual reactivity patterns. We have to be able to notice those and release them. Start saying notice and release. And then it's a relax and release. That's the next next thing we do is just we tend to, when we're in judgment, when we're triggered, it's like a amping up, and it's a intentional relax. We can take control of our body, right? That's one thing that we have control of. So when we pull our brow apart, when we relax our shoulders, when we make sure we're breathing into our nice soft belly, it tells the parasympathetic nervous system there's no danger here. I can relax. And it really changes the direction of the thought pattern, right? It's the opposite of what we would normally habitually do when we're triggered. So we train ourselves to go into that relaxation mode, and then we can see clearly. We use the David Hawkins scale of emotions. He put, actual vibratory frequencies to each of our emotions. When we're down here in the lower emotions, we can't even see, right? We're blinded by that. We have to get up to the level of 200, the level of courage or truth, where we can actually objectively bring ourselves to the situation in a way that's going to be effective. So yeah, it all starts with the witness perspective. We have to get so good at watching those dynamics at play, and it's comical when we really start watching ourselves and seeing how habitual we are, and how crazy and not based on anything real most of our thinking is.
Well, in the whole Zen tradition, there's the expression, is that so?
Right.
And so you get some piece of news and or you're getting a compliment, is that so? The Zen master always says it. And for a good 5 to 7 years, I was like, is that so? I was like, it's so detached. And I'm like, and now I'm laughing about it. Years later, it takes me 18 years to learn something that most people do like that. But I love that expression because is that so? And let me back up and try to say it differently. Angels once said, there's no right or wrong, there's proper understanding. So we're not suggesting like, hey, run out and rob a bank. And if you talk to angels, they'll give you any answers to any questions, all languages spoken. But if you ask which bank to rob, they're going to be like, no answer, move on, duh, are you serious? You're going to get called out on that. And then Ananda Mayama talked about how everybody's right. And by doing that, you disarm the whole topic. I mean, I've never met anybody who wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to go be wrong or waste all my energy for the entire week, and especially at work, and especially on the soccer field at tonight's practice. I've never met anybody who does it, and yet that's exactly what we do when we're out of alignment. Like you would say, I'm borrowing a page from your book. So there's something to all this personally for you. Where do you think you are on there's an endless amount of growing expansion. It never stops. But if you have a New York Times bestseller, you're already getting 1 million clients a month, you probably have no interest in actually picking up Reiki or picking up another practice modality. You're just going to do what you do. Most of us as humans find a way to get stuck for decades, a whole lifetime. Welcome to being human. Where are you on the expansion curve? What do you think's in front of you or awaiting you around the corner for like the next chapter on this whole big shebang?
I'm such a hungry learner. I've structured my joy school in the way that is the most delightfully joyful thing for me. This is what I teach my clients to do. So of course I have to do it myself. And I've, have clients who have been in joy school for 5, 6 years, some of them, at this point, and others come in and out and move through, and it's all good, all beautiful, exactly as it's meant to be. But that allows me to just continually learn something cool and new and bring it. Learn something cool and new and bring it. One of my joy schoolers called me a curator, and that's my favorite description of what I do, because who knows how, one decides that, oh, joy trainer is going to be my career. It wasn't on the list of options, when I took the SATs. So I've decided that joy trainer is my career, meaning that I have people who trust me to go out and have that insatiable appetite for whatever's like the coolest, newest modality we can try, the coolest, newest, information. And of course, all the classic ancient information we just keep, going back to. But I get to have this continual growth, and I hope I'm way low on that spectrum, Mike, because I wouldn't want to ever think that I might be close to the end, and then it's just like then I'm just ready to leave. I'm constantly fed by new friendships, new modalities, new ways to practice spiritual lifestyle.
Bravo. Now you're gonna go like game show here. I got 18 pages of quotes. Could be Eckhart Tolle, Wayne Dyer. It could be this or that person, angels. I'm gonna read some quotes. You can just seize on one or just not address any of them because we might not remember them or find them again. But the point is, let it propel you into some new avenue of sharing with us. Here's one from Japan. It's a gardener. You've never heard this guy before, ever. Most people haven't. So here's a new quote for most of us. But he's this really famous gardener in Japan. And by that, I mean he's one with his vegetables. And he's so one with his vegetables. He makes the best vegetables, grows the best vegetables. Every five-star restaurant wants what he has, the best cucumbers, tomatoes, and so on. So he's kind of like the Einstein or the Socrates of vegetables. His name is Etsuo Asano. He says, never pretend to understand. Constantly remind yourself that you don't know what's going on, and the vegetables will help you understand them. Why don't we get a quick reaction? That was a good lone standing quote. What's your reaction?
It's a perfect follow-up to "Is it so?" Right? It's like once we think we know it all, life is so boring and horrible, and we become insufferable, right? This is like the excitement, the novelty, the awe of every new day is the chance to expand what we know or see it differently, or just be in that allowing state. Everybody is just the accumulation of the beliefs and experiences that they've accrued up until this point. That's not going to match for any of us. We're all looking at reality through a keyhole, and none of our keyholes are lined up. So that's what makes collaborations or just conversations with people so fascinating. You get to see the world through their keyhole, and none of it is right or wrong. It's all just, what keyhole are we looking through? It's like the story with the blind man and the elephant, right? If you're touching the elephant's tail, it's one creature. If you're touching the elephant's trunk, it's a different creature. There are so many stories. The is it so goes with like so much of what Eckhart Tolle talks about, like with the guy who wins the car in the lottery, and then he crashes the car, and then he's in the hospital and his house lights into good thing or bad thing. Well, we don't know. Everything that happens, we have an idea of what we like and prefer, which may or may not turn out to be what we're actually going to enjoy or not enjoy. And we're always just going on these assumptions. But the more we can relax our attachment, the more we can find something to like or learn in any situation.
And to make the point, I've got a quick dad joke. If you're laughing, you're letting go. If you're smiling or breathing, you're letting go. There's 4 million ways to get to here. There's 40 million reasons up top that say it ain't so. Logos and reason will say you can't be happy in this very moment for no reason whatsoever. But what did the grapes say when the elephant stepped on him?
What?
Nothing. He let out a little wine. Okay, here we go. Some compassion quotes, awareness, love, stuff like that. Compassion is just being and trusting the outcome to be of the highest intent for all. Dale, who coached an Olympic athlete that we all know, he or she won a lot of golds in the late 70s or 80s. Here's one. I think it's from a group of angels. Grow your awareness, not your thinking. Be loved to all as often as possible, no more and no less. And then final one. Compassion allows all to be on one level playing field, no exceptions. Abe, the Abraham of old, he'll tell you he was a jerk when he was a human from the biblical days. He's on everyone's team, a kind of grandfatherly energy. If anybody wants to smell tobacco right now, like a pipe smoke, ask for it, close your eyes, breathe. I'll tell you one more dad joke. What's the only flower found on the human face? Tulips. And you didn't just get pipe smoke, did you? No.
Oh, I wasn't paying attention on these.
Okay, no, that's okay. What have you got for us, though, to follow up on this whole compassion, awareness, thinking thing that you got struck by from those quotes?
Well, a couple of them were about compassion. And again, compassion is, once we are able to fall back into that vertical self presence, compassion comes naturally. Compassion is who we are. We come here as divine love. That's what the fabric of the universe is. Every spiritual tradition around the globe since the beginning of the time is pretty much in agreement on that, right? We come here as pure love and light, which is compassion. And babies and children are naturally compassionate, with one another. So anything that we're doing or feeling or believing that's not rooted in compassion is something that we've learned along the way. It's something that we've picked up. So we have to first be compassionate toward ourselves if we recognize that program running, and recognize that's not me. That's not me. That's something that was inherited, learned, ingrained, and planted. It's not me. And of course, a young child is going to get these brain programs. It's not my fault if I'm carrying this. So compassion towards self leads to compassion towards others. People who are super judgy are always being super judgy of their own sweet selves, maybe on a subconscious level. So yeah, I think compassion is the most natural human thing, and the more we can clear away those obstructions to feeling ourselves as our soul, the more compassion just comes online automatically.
Oh, brilliant. Again, I think I'm saying the word brilliant a lot here. If you went and grabbed one of those animal videos they've got on YouTube, Twitter, and elsewhere, the little kid walks up and touches the nose of the donkey, or pick the little baby ducks and the little kid. I want you to queue up those videos at home, folks, have them standing by. The cutest little 2-year-old bonding with the cat, the dog, whatever we're talking about, have 10 of those ready. Go put on any news station, CNN, MSNBC, Fox, anybody. Have your reaction. Doesn't matter what your belief system is. It could be New York Jets. The you're like, no, 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 New England Patriots all the way, or the Miami Dolphins, it's okay, or Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's talk NFL. You know what you know, but then go back to the kids' video and watch the kid touching the donkey on the nose and see if you can tell the difference between here and here. I think that's a really practical and tactical exercise. And see if you can buy yourself a little bit of breathing space to be like, maybe my fixed judgments aren't quite the same as love and a beautiful moment like touching a wet donkey's nose who's like, I love you, I love you. And the kid is like, I love you too. We're buddies. That whole thing. So with that, can you talk to us about kind of a new topic? There's a lot of UAP, UFO disclosure stuff. The galaxy is really big. We're probably not the only name in the game around town if we talk about the cosmos. And with that, the way you're talking this whole time in the interview, it sounds like you really know yourself in terms of at least the higher self, the soul, higher self, whatever. And then here we are on planet Earth trying to pay the bills and lots of worrying and knowing stuff and running around in circles, spinning like a sailboat with a tiller thrown to the side, meaning constantly in a circle. Can't blame anybody. Again, 2 o'clock today, I'll be right back to it. What do you know about the universe that you'd like to share? Not publicly, this isn't a really watched show, but have you had dream time experiences where you've gotten to go to like a universal class with other people? Have you met some of your teachers with your eyes shut at night, knocked out? I never remember my dreams, but I have had a lot of guests on the show who have shared stuff like that. You can just say yes and not get into it, but yes.
Okay, you're asking me to recount my
Yeah, the universe is
mystical past.
big. You seem to have a universal connection that you're very aware of. What can you share about that?
I will first share my human horizontal self, Lisa, frustration that I don't have more spiritual experiences. I'm surrounded by people who have like really cool mystical spiritual experiences. Sometimes I'm in the room when it happens, depending on the workshop that we're in or the training and I do have a very humany ego-based disappointment that it doesn't happen to me more. I think what I've come to realize in my adulthood that I never knew previously is that there's something that started happening when I was very young, wherein I could go to a place. My childhood didn't feel terribly safe, but there I knew that there was a place within me that I could go and just feel absolute love and peace and safety. And I thought everybody had that. I thought that was just a thing. And I came later to recognize it as, oh, that's my soul. I was feeling my soul. So I think that even though I teach people how to connect with their soul and and I believe it is something that can be taught, I will say that that's something that I think happened accidentally very early on for me. So I know when I'm there, I know what it feels like to fall back into my vertical self and feel communion with something. What, I don't know, some of my colleagues have said like, oh well, that was your guardian angel, that was a visitation of a being who was protecting you. Maybe so. I absolutely love the fact that nobody here knows for sure. I think that's so exciting. There are people who completely relate to angels or aliens or spirit guides or and that's, to me, spirit is going to present itself in a way that makes sense for the human. Whether it's always like and some people, when I'm teaching them to connect to spirit, say, oh, I think it was my imagination. Yeah, duh, that's the vehicle. That's the telephone wire, right? Your imagination is the vehicle for communication, and all of our imaginations are so unique and through whatever experiences we've had, that it makes sense to me that we're all going to experience it differently, and it's going to be bright shining lights for some people and an actual apparition for other people. I don't have really interesting, spiritual experiences to share, and sometimes I wish I did, but I do know what it feels like to fall into alignment with my soul self.
Well done. I didn't say brilliant. Okay, we've reached that part of the show where if you've watched the show before, and that means it's time to comment, subscribe, like, share this with someone. Put down 2 emojis. Put down I love Lisa. Anything. Just it helps people see the show because of the algorithm and the way it works on YouTube. Blah blah blah. I'm gonna light some sage though, and anybody watching can catch this wherever you are. Germany, New Zealand. It's 2030. And by then, it's this actual episode has gotten 2.5 million views or 20 million views. Why not? You can just have no limits for all of 3 seconds. Suspend your thinking, be in your heart, let the universe carry the sage through 2 screens if you want, or it's energy, plant medicine, whatever way you need to hear it. I've got one rule or a bit of structure. Ask the universe, angels, loving beings, whatever your words are, to make it so, to bring the sage to you. So smell the smoke, the sage, red-tailed hawk feather. And if you want to go wild, ask for flowers. Why wouldn't you? Go for a 3-tier tiramisu, no calories. And the third tier is ask for ocean. Close your eyes in a little bit. Ask for ocean if you want Bora Bora, Tahiti. You want Santa Barbara, Baja, Seychelles, or just Bethany Beach in Delaware. Anywhere's good. Nantucket. Deep salt air, but don't fall asleep because that's what happens when you go there. Okay, and there's sage, sage, sage. And if you have a sore elbow, ask for it to go there. If you want to see light on your eyelids, let it be pink light from Joy. She'll be the angel we put up next for just a quick taste of angels. And we know Lisa loves Joy. Pun intended. Lisa, are you getting in Jacksonville, Florida area the sage smoke?
Oh yeah.
Duh. Are you getting any flowers at all? And if not, can you do your fantastic manifesting, setting your intent, close your eyes again and ask for the flowers? What'd you get?
Jasmine.
Oh, I didn't do it. Okay. So blame angels. Whoop. And a stray ash. Whoops. Don't want to set myself on fire. And I do need to snub this out. Um, Here comes Joy. Now I was in a panic 12 or 13 years ago and sure shot camera, snapping photos of Play-Doh, some fairies, angels. I handed the camera to the folks. They did the same. If your vibe's high, you can do it. No big deal. You can see angels in human form. Don't make it a big deal. But here's a light energy form. She's the emotion joy ambassador communicator. People can put their hand out and feel the vibe. Sparkle, warmth, might be yummy in the tummy. And if you're trying too hard, sparkles on the toes. Feel what you can feel. Don't judge. I think that's what Lisa was saying before. And instead, work on the compassion, unconditional love thing. What's Joy got as a reminder for us all?
Are you asking me? Oh, what's joy got as a reminder for us all? Um, it's yeah, joy is love. We covered that early on, and I think that joy is reminding us that love really starts with self-love, as trite and cliche as that phrase is. And it's not about buying the shoes or taking the bubble bath. It's about the way we talk to ourselves and our minds and our own hearts. And when we get that up leveled, when we get our own love and compassion for our own precious selves up leveled, it naturally is going to extend out there into everybody that we encounter.
Yay. Who are some of the teachers that in the past you've aggregated from? Remember you talked about the, School of Joy or Joy School, and you're great at grabbing a whole collective bit of teaching, bubbling it down and disseminating. That's the boomerang thing or whatever you want to call it. Can you just go through that sushi menu of experts over time that you've touched on for folks?
So in a general sense, it would be Buddhist principles and Vedic principles, Eastern principles in an overview. And then contemporary teachers of those things who do it so eloquently well again are Eckhart Tolle. I've taught a lot from Eckhart Tolle's books. I've taught from Joe Dispenza's books, kind of a different flavor, but just a scientific understanding of energy and how energy works here. I've taught from Mickey Singer's books, from Byron Katie. I feel like I'm saying the same people over and over, and there's a lot more than that. But those, to me are just like kind of the top masters that we have today.
Can you give us two or three of the smaller ones?
Yeah, let me think. Um,
Esther Hicks at all, Law of Attraction,
oh,
or
I love Hicks stuff. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. There's just so much wisdom there. And some people, don't resonate with the whole channeling. I always say if you like the fruit, don't worry about the tree. Like just pay attention to the message. The message is something that we all feel so inherently, when we hear what Abraham's wisdom is. It's just like it rings true. And whether you're okay with channeling or not. I do have, kind of a mix of people who come to Joy School. I've got very, very spiritual, completely comfortable with, channeling. And I've got people who are a little more like dipping their toes there. So I welcome all. Oh man, I'm gonna have to come back to you. I'm
yeah,
kind of playing a blank.
no worries. Okay, last couple of quotes, and then we'll have you wrap it up for us. Wayne Dyer's the first thing I saw. Totally funny. Everything you are against weakens you. Everything you are for empowers you. Why don't we just stop there before I do any more quotes, because that's exactly what you were saying earlier. One more time, just because of the times we're in, you might as well say it.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm trying to project when this is actually going to air. Who knows what times we're going to be in, but assuming that times stay pretty much the way they are today while we're doing this recording, it's so important to imagine. Thank you, love. So this is going to be December. It's so important to keep your eye on the big picture. What kind of world do you want, right? We all know what kind of world we want. And don't get bogged down in the details. I think it has to be this person, this way, this plan, this promise to get me the world that I want. It's a fool's game and it just wastes so much energy. Focus on the world you want. Make sure that when you step out into the world every day, you're being representative of the world that you want. And for a lot of us, that's going to right there. Oh, wait, yes, I want a world of inclusivity and compassion and diversity and acceptance of all people and all points of view. So I can't really say that I want that world and then go on Facebook and fight with all my political rivals, right? It's not in keeping. So imagine the world that you want, hold that vision. Martin Luther King said the arc of justice, the arc, what is it? The arc of history bends toward justice. The arc of history bends toward justice. I think that's it. If you look back historically, I believe that to be true. Yes, we're going to have some one step forward, two steps back, and that kind of dance. That's part of the game. That's part of the human thing. And if you're here on the planet at this juncture in time when human beings still kill human beings over disagreements. Human beings be dicks to other human beings all over the world on the regular, right? This is just like we all opted to come in right here where this is where humanity's at. If you see a way for you to positively move that in the direction you'd like to see humanity go in, just pay attention to that. Just pay attention to being that in any way that you can. Be that example. If we all swept our own doorstep, the whole world would be clean, right? It's a whole, it's got to start from within. Stop putting your nose out there telling everybody else how they need to believe and what they need to think, because they're just seeing the world through their keyhole. None of us can see the world through anybody else's keyhole. The exact set of events and factors that brought them to the conclusions that they're having, if we had been that soul in that set of circumstances, we might be having the exact same conclusions.
Being by doing, doing by being, or do be, doobie doobie do. Okay. Here we go. Exactly. Okay, a monk. Oh no, whoa! I'd already given that one. Here we go.
Walks into a bar with no. Okay.
Oh, and no, a man walks into a bar. Another man walks into the bar and walks around the bar, or something like that. Another man walks around the bar, meaning the first one walks straight into the bar. Okay, here we go. We cannot teach people anything. We can only help them to discover it within themselves. Galileo. Same thing that you've been saying. We don't even need to go there. I feel like you're covering every one of these quotes. Here we go. Marcus Aurelius, the world is mere change, and this life opinion. You don't need to comment again. You just did. I'm randomly on 18
Marcus
different pages.
Aurelius.
Yeah.
Like thousands of years people were talking about this stuff. This is like not new. This new thought like trend. No, it's ancient thought.
Okay, I'm going through like a little epiphany here. Here too, MAF. That's me. My abbreviation initials. I don't write out my name on my own notes. What you know equals your limits. I must have said that at some point. Blame angels. And then doing by being or being by doing, awareness is the difference. I am randomly picking these, and I think I just did doobie doobie doo. So I'm shocked. You can see it. Here we go. I got to find a real quote, though, that is from someone famous. So Buddha. And then hold on. It's split quote on the prior page. Oh, Jesus. We're hitting like 19 bullseyes in a row and splitting the arrows. Here we go. We are shaped by our thoughts. We become what we think. When the mind is pure, joy follows like a shadow that never leaves. You got to comment on that one.
Oh, it's so true. And that's what I was talking about, all those pockets of energy that every one of us in our humanity journey has stored away. It's the clearing out of those one by one, the releasing the obstructions to the joy that's in there. Joy isn't something that we have to go find or create or manifest. It's already in there. We just all have accumulated these obstructions to that being our day-to-day experience of ourselves. Clear out the obstructions, joy is all that's left.
And speaking of which, last act before you close out the show, and if you would, this is a totally, I've never done this with a guest, it's super easy. Connect with her, ask Joy to come in, close your eyes and get an image, breathe through your mouth, mouth open. I can't see you right now, so millimeter open with the mouth, and breathe, 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 shoulder heave ho. The more you do that, the volume gets turned up. Get something beautiful in your eyelids. It could be a vision of a beach, it could be a pink flower. Joy could just be flashing you the cutest little rubber ducky out of pink. What are you getting that you're seeing that's from the angel Joy to Lisa McCourt in Florida, and she's just laughing and showering you with love? What are you getting that you can share with us? Did anything happen?
I think this is like a super old memory of an image, but maybe I don't know. I don't know where it's coming from, but it was that image of like there's a globe and all the little colorful dolls holding hands. Like I feel like it's like a Latin representation like art thing, or a Haitian art of all the little colorful thread dolls holding hands all over the globe.
It's kind of like that holding hands across America, but then they somehow got across the Atlantic and Pacific and ringed the globe. They had a lot of
Mhm.
floating docks. Got it. Okay. What do you have to close us out? Look, you're a professional at this. You've written other people's books secretly. You can't tell us who, but about 9 million cumulative copies sold means these aren't nobodies. I got to still plug your ghostwriting that you're never going to do again unless those three people contact you. Eckhart Tolle, if you're watching, bam. Now, children's books, but also the School of Joy. You're helping people, basically, spiritual teacher, hate to say it, self help teacher, just joy teacher, allowing more, loving more, show love always. Let me do one last quote for everybody. This will be the hand grenade into the mix. And then you're taking it from here and closing us out. So this is Blame Angels for this one. You can be happy now in this very moment for no reason whatsoever. And
Ooh.
all of us should say, but if you got bills to pay, you're like, you haven't seen my bank account, or I'm on my fourth divorce in 4 weeks. I'm unlucky. Think about it. So you can be happy now in this very moment for no reason whatsoever. Lisa, mic drop here. I'm only closing out the show after this. What do you got for us?
Thank you. That's a beautiful setup right there, because I might need to rephrase a tiny bit and say joy. You can be in joy
Yeah,
now.
you can be joyful now in this very moment for no reason whatsoever.
We all have been so conditioned to this idea that I can have joy when I get the degree, I get that amount in the bank account, I get that partner, I get that home. It's just the way our culture has conditioned us to be. But anybody who's ever gotten what they want knows it's not true, right? We get what we want. It's not what we want anymore. We're constantly setting our sights on something else, some new desire. That's totally fine. That's a human life. That's what pulls the energy through us, is having desires and bringing them into fruition. But we've got to take it a lot less seriously and be a lot less attached to those outcomes, because the joy is there, and it's that attachment, that clinging. Buddhists call it the hungry ghosts, right? That always clinging to that next desire, that thing that until I get that, I can't have happiness. Who decides that? Oh, you get to decide that. You get to decide if you're just going to be happy every step along the way. It really is a habit, that idea that we put our happiness out there in the hands of another person, in the hands of a circumstance. There are people who are in horrible circumstances by objective measures, who have found inner peace within themselves, who are waking up just so blessing whatever parts of their body are working, even if some parts are not, so blessing and grateful for whatever kind of shelter they're waking up to that day, even if it's not nearly the desirable form of shelter that they would prefer to have. It's happening everywhere. Circumstances account for such a tiny bit of the actual joy that we have access to and could be living from in every second. It's just breaking some habits.
And you can see that in a very Disney-esque movie called Peaceful Warrior. It wasn't made by Disney, but it feels like it was. It's kind of like an adult Karate Kid film. It's Dan Millman's book, Way of the Peaceful Warrior, but the movie's called Peaceful Warrior. Nick Nolte, Scott Meklowitz, Amy Smart, and it's just a gymnastics film, but it's not. It's got a lot of, you could call it spirituality. I would argue that the gas station attendant, the Mr. Miyagi figure, is actually an angel people can make named Herb, even though they call him Sock, and it's Nick Nolte at his best. But there's a moment at the beginning of the story where Scott Meklowitz, the main gymnast, is saying, when I achieve this, I'll be somebody, I'll be happy, I'll have proven something to my dad, or whatever the line was, is very stark. I mirrored exactly what you just said. And at the end of the film, I got to watch films 50 times. This is one of those films that every time you watch it, there's something new that jumps out. So it's kind of dimensional. But it's just a straight sports movie if you want to feel safe about it. At the end, they're at the NCAA's, which Dan aced in real life. This is the 60s, but the film was made in 2005. So it's a modern, relatively modern film. It still feels modern, like it could have been made yesterday. He's sitting at the NCAA's. He's figured a lot out. He's here more, and he's performing incredibly, doing stuff he shouldn't have been able to do. He set world records basically on the rings, and he did what no one else in the world could do. He went on to the Olympics later. That's not important right now, but he's sitting next to another one of his gymnasts who's been throughout the film there. And that guy says exactly what he said at the beginning. He knows something's up with Dan. He's watched his transformation, but he still falls into the trap of up here. And he says, when I achieve this, I'll be somebody, I'll have a chance to be happy, and I'll be able to relax. And it was the whole point of the film, one of the points of the film, and it totally mirrored what you just said. And I had to go off on a sideshow on that. Lisa McCourt, you're absolutely a fabulous teacher, instructor for us all to remember that the joy exists within. Um, how much do you love joy?
Boy,
Thank you so much for being on Angels Positivity and Love. You're a trooper, as they say. Amazing. Really appreciate you being on the show.
I love you, Mike. Always, always a pleasure to connect with you.